Hey everyone, welcome to this beer lesson on mugs and specialty glassware. It's part of a series on beer glassware, so make sure you check out my other videos on beer stemware, pints and tumblers, and the best beer glassware to have. It's part of a free video series I'm producing with a group called the Restaurant Community, which is creating purpose, advancement, and community for everyone who's found family in the restaurant industry. Alright, so now let's talk about mugs and specialty glassware. So mugs have a handle on them that makes them easy to hold, but also helps to keep your hand from warming the beer during a hot summer day, so that comes in handy. When they're made of glass, they're typically called a mug or a tankard in English. In German, you might see a Krug or a Seidel. When they're made out of ceramic, that's when the word Stein comes into play. You call it a Stein in America, whereas in Germany you might call it a Steinkrug. And then they traditionally would have a flip lid on them that goes like this. It helps to keep you from sharing your beer with too many yellow jackets during outdoor summer sipping. They're really appropriate for any style of beer that you want to drink gulps of, all right? There's nothing elegant about this. It's just about drinking beer, okay? So we're talking things like Pilsner, Fest beer, Pale Ale, IPA, Porter, and Stout. They're not great for beers that are particularly high ABV or highly aromatic, all right? So for those, you really want to drink them in smaller portions out of kind of curvy stem glasses, stemware. Alright, so there are a ton of different sizes and shapes of mugs out there. These are from my personal collection, and I only have a couple. Honestly, they don't do the beer that many favors from their shape. They're fun to drink out of, but I don't really recommend them for many of my bar or restaurant clients because their handles take up valuable space on the shelves and in dishwashers. So beyond that though, my favorite is the 1 liter Maßkrug. In German they call it a Maß or a Maßkrug. It's a full liter of beer up to the line here, and above that is a healthy collar of foam. Each dimple here is a 1/4 liter, and so that's 8.5 ounces. And the idea being at celebrations at like Oktoberfest, for instance, after a big toast, a big cheers, everyone drinks a dimple of their Maß. So trust me, there are a lot of toasts, prosts, and cheers at Oktoberfest. If you want to experience the real thing, join me on a beer immersion to Munich. So I'm getting distracted. I feel like drinking this beer. Prost! Oh yeah. Alright, so we have the Pilsner glass, which is for, you guessed it, Pilsner. So technically it's a specialty glass since it's really only for one style of beer, but because both Pilsner beer and Pilsner glasses are so ubiquitous, I really kind of consider it a standard glass. So I covered a little bit more in depth in my video on pints and tumblers. So check that out. Now we have the Weissbier glass, or the Weissbier vase, which is traditionally curvy, and its inward taper not only focuses the aroma of the beer, but also concentrates or tightens kind of the bready foam that's such an important part of the German Weissbier or Hefeweizen. Keep in mind that Germans don't garnish their Weissbier or Hefeweizen with a lemon. They also have an amazing way of pouring it. Alright, so this next one's one of my favorites. I call it the farmhouse glass. In Flemish, sometimes I call it a ribbeltje, and referring to the kind of the ribs that are in the bottom of it. But basically it's what Belgians drink most of their lambic, Gueuze, and Saison out of. So in the US, those are pretty expensive beers normally, and they're very aromatic too. So typically in the US here, we'll drink them out of stemware, like a tulip or a goblet, sometimes a wine glass. But in Belgium, they're everyday beers. They're not put on a pedestal. And so they just drink them out of Willebecker. Actually, I have one here. So Willebecker, or this ribbed water glass, like my grandma used to drink out of. Just very laid-back glass, unassuming. Alright, then there's this confusingly simple, small, straight-sided glass that comes from Düsseldorf and Cologne in northwestern Germany. So this one is an Altbier glass from Düsseldorf where they drink chestnut brown colored Altbier in it. It's 250 milliliters, so that's 8.5 ounces, pretty small. It's actually bigger though than the Kolschbier Stange, so that's the glass that people in Cologne drink Kolschbier out of. So Kolschbier is golden in colored and they drink it out of 200 milliliter glasses, so it's less than 7 ounces, 6.8 ounces. That's really small. In the rest of Germany, they actually joke that people in Cologne drink beer out of test tubes. Stange translates in English to stick, so it's like drinking a beer out of a stick. So it's straight-sided, which means it doesn't really do a lot of favors for the beer. It doesn't help the aroma, it doesn't help the foam. So what's going on? Why are these glasses so popular for these beers? So what happens is you go to a bar or restaurant or brewery in Cologne or Düsseldorf. If you're in Cologne, you sit down and order the one Kolsch beer that's available at that spot. Or if you're in Düsseldorf, you sit down and order the one alt beer that's available at that spot. And it comes in this small glass, and you start drinking. Tastes delicious, tastes fresh, and as soon as you're almost done with it, a fresh one magically appears. So it's brilliant. What happens is you don't need to flag down a server to order another one. It's just assumed that you're going to keep drinking them until you say no, until you say stop. So it's brilliant because it helps to keep the beer. Every beer that you drink is freshly poured, it's cold. You don't have a large portion of the beer that takes you a while to drink. You don't nurse it slowly and let it warm up. The idea is that because they're small portions, they are easy to replace, they're easy to drink, and constantly replenished. So you're always drinking fresh, cold beer. It's mind-blowingly brilliant. The downside is that you can't really translate or you can't execute it outside of Cologne or Düsseldorf because, like in America, for instance, we all like to order different beers a lot of the time. You don't go and just sit down and order the same beer over and over again. And so when you want choice or you're not expecting such a small glass, it doesn't work very well, unfortunately. I've tried it. It's frustrating. Basically, people in Cologne and Düsseldorf get it, and they know that the beer will keep coming, and they don't need to switch it up all the time. So they are stoked. They're going to keep getting fresh, cold beer that they don't need to constantly ask for and order and request. It's brilliant. I love it. Now, there are countless other specialty glasses out there, including the jelly glass, and the yard, and the boot, and many others. But the ones I've listed here are the most common and the most useful. Check out this German Weissbier pour. So head over to therestaurantcommunity.com for more food and beverage service resources. And if you're looking for more videos on all things beer, go to my YouTube channel, Master Cicerone Rich Higgins. And over at my website, richhiggins.com, you can check out my video prep course for the Certified Cicerone exam, learn the deductive beer tasting method, join me in Germany and Belgium for my beer immersions, and of course, check out my Liquid Bread podcast. So stay in touch and follow me at Malty Rich. Cheers. That's delicious. Ah, I love this beer.